Hello, and welcome to the High Conflict Co-Parenting Podcast. In this podcast, we explore and dive into the stress-filled world of high conflict divorce and relationships. We offer solutions to calm your world down and allow for greater positive engagement with your children and the people around you. If you find value in this commercial and advertising-free podcast, please consider donating by pressing the donate button so we can continue our helpful work. Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody, to the High Conflict Co-Parenting Podcast with Brook Olson. And this week we're doing something a little bit different. I'm flying solo, so it will be just me. And as you know, on all of these podcasts, what we're trying to do is to give you guys skill sets, to give you information, to help you understand more and more what's going on in the background and how to navigate it better. And I believe that the best way to do that is to create skill sets and have things that we can come back on and look at that we can work on in real time when this stuff comes up. So today, we're going to talk about the etiology of conflict, the components, the things that make up conflict as I see it from this perspective. And as I developed my programs, I looked at and worked with some colleagues to really try to understand some of the things that really came into the back and forth, the places where people have beliefs and get tied up in their reactivity and their conflict in the background within themselves. And these things seem to tie together between two people. One functions opposite of the other, or they function congruently within the relationship or within the high conflict relationship, if you will. So the 5 components that I really looked at in this, with conflict being the center point, is fear, finances or money, control, revenge, and then the addictive behaviors and the personality disorders, and I put them together in the 5th block. And as I looked at these, I wanted to come up with some statements that kind of go along with these. And so I'm gonna kind of go through these with you as you're listening and give you some idea of what this might look like so you can start to get a handle on it. And if you're in a place where you're not driving, that you've got a moment, take out a piece of paper and start to write some of this stuff down. And then I'm going to give you an exercise at the end of this to practice with. But if you are driving or you're doing something where you can't sit down and write this down, come back to this podcast, come back to this part of it, and then go back through it, because I think it's really important. This is an exercise I do within one of my classes. And the exercise is incredibly poignant. It reaches into some depths that you normally won't go. So here are the factors, and we'll go at them one at a time. So fear of being alone is something that drives people. Fear of not having enough. Fear of an unknown future. Fear that the other parent isn't taking care of or doing the appropriate things with the children. Control, needing to control the situation in order to feel not out of control. Controlling the other person in order to manipulate. Controlling in order to keep the children safe. And needing to control the situation in order to feel safe. So in other words, having some hypervigilance and always be looking for something that you need to take control of to make a change in, because something is going to happen if I don't do that. Revenge, this is a good one. You left me and now you're going to pay for all you did wrong in the relationship or within the marriage, or for all that I had to give up for the relationship or for the marriage, or for the cheating that you did on me, the betrayal that you did. I'm going to make you pay for that. So the revenge components. Money. I worked and all you did was stay home. The money should be mine. You guys have heard this one, right? I gave up my future to take care of the family. You owe me. I have all the brains. You just came along for the ride. You have to continue to take care of me. You said you would. It's because of all of my hard work that we have money. Go to work and get your own. And then we have the personality traits. We have the narcissistic personality. We have the borderline personality. We have the histrionic personality. We have the paranoid personality. We have the antisocial personality. And these are all within that cluster B, axis 2 type stuff that we find in the DSM. And then we have addictive behaviors, and we package those two together because oftentimes they come packaged together. They're often comorbid. So we're looking at those behaviors because they're often similar and they're early trauma related. I mean, addiction comes out of early childhood trauma frequently, as does the development of these attachment disorders. So at the base of all of these, there's one piece that I see that threads through all of them. And that thread is fear. Fear drives so much of the conflict that we're talking about in our relationships, in the world, wherever you look. There's something that I have to have that I don't have. There is a sense of not being complete and needing to complete, of not having the attachment that I need to have, the person in my life that I want to have. So we look at these through that lens. So as we look at the revenge, the substance abuse, the control, the money, they're really basically all driven by an existential fear. And if we can recognize that, and we can recognize the components that are within that, then we can start to step back ourselves and start to understand part of what's driving the other person so we don't engage in some of these areas. What we're trying to do is scrub off the poking, whatever it is that I'm doing that's creating that. So we can calm this piece down so the kids can have some respite. So we learn how to let them have their path, let them do what they do. But we take care of ours. We take care of our path. We take care of what we need to do through this extended level of consciousness that we're working with here. So the exercise that I want you to do, there's going to be two here within this podcast. The first is I want you to take out a piece of paper. And I want you to divide that piece of paper into two columns. And on one column, I want you to put your name, and in the other column, I want you to put your ex's name, or you can just put X there if you care to. And then on the one side, I want you to go through these things and listen to the components that ping you, that you believe trigger you into these different behaviors. And simultaneously, while I'm doing that, I want you to write down what you believe is pinging the other parent. And then we're going to come back and you're going to do a brief assessment and look at how those things line up. So here you go. We're going to start with the first piece, and we're going to start again, this time with just basic fear. So do either of you have a fear of being alone? And think about how that drives the conflict, how that negative intimacy comes in, and that we've talked about in some of the other podcasts, and that how that helps drive this intensity of being in contact all the time. Fear of not having enough. I don't have enough money. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough patience. I don't have enough to be able to function. Fear of an unknown future. I don't know what's going to happen here. This is new for some of you. It's just happened. It's a new breakup. It's a new divorce. It's a new separation. I had plans for this. We had plans for this. And suddenly my identity has changed around my future. And I don't know what's going to happen because I had some sense that I could depend on this other person, that they were going to be there and we were going to travel this together. And suddenly I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what that looks like as a single person. I don't know what that looks like as a single parent. Then how might that look to the other parent? How might that be something that is driving them as well? Fear that the other parent is not keeping the children safe, that they are not a good parent. Well, this is something that I hear all the time, and I suspect is going on in your relationship. That's either real or conceived or perceived, real or perceived. And you are looking at this, or they are looking at this through the lens that there's something wrong with you, or that there's something wrong with them that you believe keeps them from being a good parent. And by extension, you don't want the children to be there. So you are pulling back, or they are pulling them back or withholding. And I think it's important as you look at this to look at the behaviors and not just dismiss them. If somebody has got some sense of there's some things that you need to work on, don't dismiss it, work on it. But also understand that there's something going on with the other parent that is that you may think is problematic and may be problematic. And that is a legitimate driving fear of yours. But how do you approach that in a way that you don't create more conflict, simply by understanding that that is what is behind their behavior? Control. Needing to control the situation in order to feel safe, this sense of hypervigilance. You may see this in your ex, you may see it in yourself, but I need to control this situation. And I need to make sure that everything is in the exact right place and that there is no threat to the children, that there is no threat to me. And this may be coming from the other parent. That's maybe how they are looking at the world, or this may be how you're looking at the world. So I want you to look at that and put it in its appropriate column. Some of the stuff you may find is in both. So to the next piece. Controlling in order to manipulate. Having that place of, I know how to make you squirm. I know how to make you do things that you don't want to do. I know how to bring in fear to create a situation where you do exactly what I want to do. And looking at places where you may do that, and looking at where they do that. So manipulation is really a tricky piece because, let's face it, we all want the outcome that we want, and we all do things to push that outcome. So it's important to really come into owning where you do that, and not just blaming where the other parent does that. So just noticing where they do it and what is driving that for them. What is that end piece and what they're trying to do in that controlling to manipulate to their own end. Because if you understand that, you also understand how not to be manipulated in it. Controlling in order not to feel out of control. This is just kind of a white knuckle job. There's this place where you're in overwhelm, or they're in overwhelm, and they're just grabbing hold of absolutely everything that they can to control it, to bring their sense of solidity to their world, to take the chaos out. And this typically doesn't work in any way, shape, or form, but it's a behavior. It's usually a overt behavior that really is noticeable. And to notice it and to think about what's going on behind it, both for you and for them, as it aligns up in these columns. Controlling in order to keep the children safe. This makes perfect sense, right? They're not safe there. We already hit that piece in the fear moment. And I am going to set everything in place that I can do to control it so the children are safe. And sometimes that's a real concern. And sometimes it's a perceived concern. And sometimes it's our own controlling to manipulate. We're tricking ourselves into thinking that there's a problem that there isn't there, and we're really putting it out there. And I'm not saying that everybody does that, but it's not unusual to do that. You know, there's places in our own consciousness that we're not aware of how things are being driven. You know, we've talked about our hearts, our places where we're not aware of what's driving this. So we want to open this can, we want to look inside, we want to sniff it out a little bit and see where it is, both for us and for the other parent in its column. The next one is revenge. This usually comes out of betrayal or a sense of betrayal. And when somebody feels betrayed, they want to get even. They want to take and get their own pound of flesh to even the score so they feel better about their situation where they're not a victim. This is a victim response if you really stop and think about it. And as you've been listening to these podcasts over time, you know my point about victimhood is this is not a victim place where we are going to operate from. We're going to always operate from a place of responsibility. So when we come back into this place of revenge, these statements of, you left me and now you're going to pay. Are you hearing that from the other party? Or are these your statements? And are they subconscious? Is this something that I am doing to make their life a little more painful, to make sure that they're a little more uncomfortable, to say no when yes is easy, or to say no just to say no? Or is this what they're doing because they feel wronged? And just to notice that. I'll talk a little bit about, for a moment, my own experience with this one, because this sense of being hurt when a relationship is broken is natural. It's something that we all go through. But my contention in it is, I don't want to get hung up in all of the things, all of my anger, all of the what you did wrong. I want to move on from that because this is done, and I don't want to get stuck in something that's done. I want my mind to set to be into the future and into problem solving. I want to have a mindset of growth. And through that, I'm going to take this I'm hurt, and I'm going to take it internal, and I'm going to look at why I'm hurt. And what are the things that I contributed to this piece, and not fall into the victim, and then start to build my life back to where I want it. I don't want to expend my energy in revenge, and I don't want you expending your energy in revenge. And if the other party is expending their energy in revenge, I don't want you to get caught up in it because it's not necessary. We don't have to go down this road. So you left, and now you will pay for all the things you did wrong in our relationship or our marriage, or for all the things that I had to give up for our relationship or marriage. You know, the things that I had to give up. I gave to the marriage. That was an agreement. And if something came down and I was blind and this didn't end up at the end of the day the way I thought it was going to, that's growth. That's something that I didn't see that I was complicit with. And why was I giving? Why was I doing all of this? Was it to get something in return? Or was it simply because this is what I do? And these are questions that you want to ask yourself. And you want to be able to reach into the other person's psyche and ask those questions as well. Money. I worked and all you did was stay home. This money should be mine. I gave up my future to take care of the family you owe me. I have all the brains, you just came along for the ride. Kind of a narcissistic tone, right? through all of this in some way. You have to continue to take care of me. You said you would. Again, a place of not having potency. It's because of all my hard work that we have these things. Go to work and get your own. But we had this agreement that was something else. You know, these are all things, these are all energies that come in that we have to listen to in terms of how superficial they are in not moving things forward, in a stuck mindset, if you will. These are the types of statements that keep us from progressing into the things and into the people that we want to be. Addiction. You know, addiction comes out of lack of good early attachment, typically. One of the statements that has been made quite strongly over the years is that the antidote to addiction is attachment. And when we can solve the attachment problem, we can solve sometimes the addiction problem. And truly a lot of the personality traits as well. When we can get into those places of really being able to look at ourselves and our own pieces, then this is where the things get resolved. But we also know that these behaviors that are reflective of the other things that we just talked about are things that are out of our control, except for us. So we can take care of our stuff. We can look at our own therapist. We can do our own programs. But the other person's going to do what they do. But if we understand why they're stuck in that, then we move out of the demonization of them and we move into letting them go and moving down into the next corridors of our life, which is what we really want to do. So I'm going to take you through a little exercise that I do in class. And certainly if you're listening to this and you're driving or you're working or you're around people that are listening to this, you want to take some time and you want to do this by yourself. And a little heads up at the end of this thing, it might leave you a little bit disturbed. It might leave you a little bit uncomfortable, and that's going to be normal. But it's going to give you some information that's really needed. So as you start to listen to this and you start to go, oh no, I'm not going there. Go there. Trust me. It's okay. But also, as you get to the end of this, understand that there's no blame to be had here. There's no shame to be had here. There's nothing to feel bad about for yourself here. And there's not also a place for you to go into this deep, oh, poor them, I have to be better to them type of a mode, because that's not what we're looking for here at all. We're looking for information here. And we're looking for information that you can take in, that you can utilize to break away from this conflict cycle. So if you're all ready, let me take you down an interesting path. We have an interesting ability as human beings to experience things outside of ourselves, things that we maybe have no business knowing, but if we drop in, we know. And we know. And it's accurate information. So I want you to trust a little bit here about what you hear as you go through this little meditative exercise that I'm going to take you down. This meditative exercise, you're going to find some resistance to. So relax, close your eyes, and just connect with your breath. Just notice your breath as it comes in and out of your body. And notice where any tension lies. And after a few deep, long breaths, bring in a pleasant thought or memory. And utilize this thought or memory, this little visualization, as a way to settle your system. Our brains go where our thoughts go. And if our thoughts go to something pleasant, our nervous system relax around that. So we're going to just take in a pleasant thought or memory. And as you do that and you feel your body start to settle, sitting in the seat, sitting in your chair, sitting in your room, just notice you're here. And as your system begins to settle, we are going to take you on a journey. We're going to take you on a journey across space and across time that will bring you to another place of experience. So imagine, as you sit here, that you are leaving your body, that you're going out through the crown of your head, and you are just exiting your body. And you hover above your own body, and you look down and you see your body there sitting in the chair doing this exercise. Now I want you to imagine that as you leave your body, you begin to exit the building that you're in, your house, your office, wherever you happen to be. And as you exit the building, you look down on the building and you notice that that building's there. And then you take off across time and across space. And we're traveling to wherever the other parent happens to be. And notice as you arrive at where they're at, you just hang out and you hover and you look down and you can see them there. Next, just notice how you are oriented to them, how you feel about this moment. You may feel a little bit uncomfortable, and it's okay to be uncomfortable here. And if you are, talk to yourself and say, this is okay, I'm okay, and that I can continue here. And knowing that as this begins to get more and more uncomfortable, that you can tolerate that discomfort. And you begin to go down through the space and time, closer and closer to the other parent. And as you get closer to them, you begin to notice that you can sense them. And now I want you to take the next step. I want you to imagine that you are entering into their body. You are going through the crown of their head, and you are going into their body, and you are becoming them. And as uncomfortable as this might feel at the moment, just relax around this. We're only going to spend a little bit of time here. And as you enter into their body, I want you to just notice whatever you feel about them, however they're feeling in this moment. And then I want you to ask a question. What is it that is the biggest fear that this person has? And just listen for that answer. It'll come. And once you get that answer, I want you to ask the next question, which is, what is their biggest challenge in this time? And just stay here long enough to get that answer. Now, complete this journey and imagine yourself leaving their body and hovering above them for just a moment. Thanking them for this experience, and then traveling back across space and time back to your own building. See yourself coming back into the building, back into the room. Hover above your own body for a moment, orient to the room, and then re-enter your own body. And then go back to the pleasant thought or memory that you began the journey with. And stay with this as long as it takes for you to reestablish I'm home, I'm here. Okay. And then open your eyes. And write down what you discovered about the other parent. This is a deep exercise. This is information that will help you, that as you come into working with a parent coordinator, you're working with a mediator, you're just trying to navigate something back and forth with them, that will give you some insight. Be soft with yourself with this. Take it easy. And come back to this if you want from time to time. This is something different that we haven't done on this podcast before. We'll do this kind of stuff going forward from time to time. I think this is really important stuff to bring in. And as we exit here, I just want to remind everybody again that, this podcast is coming out the third week in April. And Tony and myself are going to be hosting a 3-day coaching intensive that are meant for people who want to learn more about the high conflict piece, that want to do coaching with people, or that they just want to understand more about their own perceptions and how they get lost in this. It'll be great training. It's 3 days. That's July 24th, 5th, and 6th. You can go to the website, highconflict.net, and look it up. And if you are interested, just fill out the registration. I'll reach out and contact you, and we'll take care of the details to get you ready to go. Thank you for joining me with this. I hope you enjoy this piece, or if not enjoy it, simply get a great deal of information, personal information that is going to help you moving forward. Thank you, everybody, and we will see you next week. You all take care.
Brook, people don't have to wait until Friday mornings to get more content. If this is something that's helpful for them, right? This isn't the first time you've broadcast anything or recorded anything or put anything out there in the world. What are the other ways people can get the help more aggressively or speed up their recovery process? What materials are available for people right now?
Well, I've written a book called The Black Hole of High Conflict, and it's available on Amazon and Kindle.
Great.
And everything that we're talking about is really compressed and put into there. So this is a really good starter place to get in and get your mind working and to see what these concepts are about and how to start to apply them. The other place that I think that is valuable is to go to our website and look at some of the blog articles that I've written. Those are available there as well. They go into some of these other arenas, and that's at www.highconflict.net. So the book, the website are also really good places to get the material. And also we have classes. We have high conflict diversion program classes that you can get into and get some one-on-one help with this as well.
And you know me, I'm aggressive. Whatever I want to become good at or learn, I find someone who's good at it and pay them and hire them and shorten my learning curve. What if somebody just wants your help? Somebody says, Brook has this information. He's good at something I'm not good at yet, and I want to work with him. Do you have any type of coaching or consultations or anything like that?
Absolutely, I do. I do one-on-one coaching for custody cases. I help people get ready for family court services. If you've got that in your community, I work with attorneys and clients to help them with managing and strategically setting them up to have more successful cases as well.
And how do they reach out? You want them to just go to the website or email or phone, or what's the best way for them to reach out, raise their hand, and say, I need some help?
They can email me. My direct email is brook@highconflict.net. That's BROOK at highconflict, HIGH, conflict.net.
Perfect. That's everything everybody would need to get some help, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you, Brooke.